We talking rom-com, we talking action, we talking drama and movie classics. Whatever you want, yo, we have it. Cause we talking movies on the podcast. So I married a film critic. So I married a film critic. So I married a film critic. Hey honey, I just want to talk about the movie like casually. You don't have to bring up the cinematography. Honestly, let's just talk about like how the characters were fun. Married a film critic. So I married a film critic.
Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. This is your co-host, Julia, and our film critic,
Barry. Hey, everybody. How you doing?
How's it going?
It's going good. How you doing, Jules?
Good.
Thank you for being willing to watch a horror film after the prior episode in which I got to swim through the Amanda Bynes swamp. So thank you for allowing me to redeem myself and shower myself in cinematic greatness.
Wow, that's a big
introduction.
Yeah, that's a big introduction for what I would consider maybe a small film. We watched the movie Don't Speak.
No, it's called Don't Breathe. But Don't Speak is a great song by Gwen Stefani.
Did it again.
Performing with No Doubt. Don't tell me why it hurts.
You guys, I did that earlier today. It's called Don't Breathe.
Don't breathe. Don't breathe, Jules.
Wow, don't breathe. Okay. So we needed a palate cleanse.
I did.
Well,
yeah, I really did. You didn't, but I really did.
Yeah. And just so our audience understands, if we ever do a horror movie, it is always your pick.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's my favorite genre, and I just love the creativity of them and the invention of them. And I would rather watch a horror film than a bad romantic comedy, which is why the one extreme to the other this week. But no, I'm glad we saw this because I've only seen this once, and this is your first time seeing it.
Yeah, my first time seeing it, and I went into this movie not knowing anything.
You say you went in completely blind?
I did. I did not watch any trailers. I didn't really know what it was about. I mean, I think you gave me maybe a one-sentence synopsis.
I think before it started, I said, it's like Wait Until Dark, and just kind of said that.
Yeah, just said like, we're going with it, and I thought, okay. Well, and you know my...
your pain threshold when it comes to horror films? Yes.
Yeah. Just so, again, our listeners know... 17 years ago, after we got married, we saw The Ring together, and you guys, it terrified me. And that was the horror movie that basically made me swear off horror movies.
17 years ago, deeply scarred in a movie theater. No, that was a fun date because, yeah, you and I had been married for just a couple months at this point, and I said, we got to see this. It's Naomi Watts' new movie.
Well, and being newlyweds, I thought, you know what? I'm going to support this obsession and see every horror movie. And that lasted maybe 3 films.
Early on, like when you and I were dating and then when we got married, I mean, I dragged you to some films that you did not want to see. And man, like you were such a trooper to sit through it. Like I remember taking you to The Rules of Attraction with James Van Der Beek. And I just remember there was
10-10, do not recommend.
I just remember there was a point where you basically just like, we had a row to ourselves. It was opening night. No one was in that theater. No one wanted to see it, even now. And you just kind of laid out like on my lap and like went to sleep. You're like, wait me when this is over.
Yeah, I
can't, like you were like, I won't even watch this. I refuse.
I couldn't even do it. So just so our listeners, if we have any, know that I don't like gory things. I don't like really like gross things.
Neither do I, really.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to be watching Saw or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it either.
Well, just if we have any squeamish listeners like me, that this would be one, if you can handle a scary movie and suspense and a little bit of a thriller, I do actually recommend it.
Well, I guess we should tell them what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll do that. It's Jane Levy, who's a wonderful actress. She's on a show right now that I don't watch. What's it called?
The Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Thank you. It's a musical comedy show. 2 words in the description make it so that I will never watch it. So she's a very talented, versatile actress, and she was in Fede Alvarez's first American film. He's a wonderful filmmaker from Uruguay. He did the remake of The Evil Dead, and I'll say really quickly, this came out in 2013, And I avoided that movie because Evil Dead is a big one for me. And I even though the original people involved, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, were part of the making of that film, I still thought it was just cinematic sacrilege that they were remaking this great movie. And there's been so many bad horror movie remakes. So I went out of my way to skip it, which was a mistake because I finally caught up with it. The film is directed by Fede Alvarez, and it starred Jane Levy, who are both the leads of Don't Breathe. And the Evil Dead remake is one of the best horror film remakes. It's a brilliant film. It's a real tour de force.
Okay, but we're not talking about that one.
No, but I'm setting the table here. So this is the second film these two have made together, which is the reason that I went out of my way to see this one, because it's like, okay, I was wrong about Evil Dead. I'm not going to miss this one, and I'm glad I didn't. Levy is one of the three. She's a part of this gang in Detroit, Michigan.
Well, gang is
There's three of them. Okay, well,
so they're not really a gang.
A cluster.
No,
a gaggle of thieves.
No, they're just some bad kids who break into houses and steal things.
Well, they're a little more organized than that.
Okay, but they're not like the Bloods and the Crips. When you say gang, I think of that.
All right, but still, I mean, one of them is packing heat, and they rob people. It's three of them. And the youngest member of the gang, who you said, he's in a Netflix series.
Yeah. So Dylan Monet, I recognized him, and I kept saying, "What's he in? What's he in?" And you had no idea.
Yeah.
And I looked it up later. He was the lead in 13 Reasons Why,
yes.
that Netflix show.
Okay, yeah. 13 Reasons Why, The Umbrella Academy, one of the many shows on Netflix I just don't watch out of principle. But anyway, so he's the youngest of the three of them, and it's established that his character, he has a father who's an absentee father, but he has the security company, and this young man has all the security codes to all these homes, so basically they're robbing all of these houses.
Yeah, it's weird because the dad owns the company and has keys to all the houses.
Yeah, and the kid has them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a couple holes with that concept, but whatever, we just go with it. So they choose all these houses seemingly at random that have these are done, work done by these security companies, so they're able to easily just, rig the code and then enter the home and rob them. They've been doing this for quite some time. We established that Jane Levy's character is in this horrible situation where her mother is just kind of living this wild and very self-destructive life. She has a younger sister, so Jane Levy's character really wants to escape and take her little sister with her to just get the heck out of Detroit, Michigan. And as it is with a lot of movies like this, it's established that there's this one last gig they can do, this one last heist. If they just go into this house,
if they could just get this money, they would never have to do it again.
At least 4 blocks around, houses aren't occupied. No people means no 501 patrol. It's gonna be a piece of cake. The guy's the shut-in hasn't left his house in like 5 days. I say we do it with him in the house. I'll get a chlorobomb.
Jesus! Get out my car, Doc!
Yeah, that's her guy.
Wait, is he blind?
He's lost his sight in Iraq or something.
It's kind of messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro. We do this tonight.
They do a little research and they discover that this house, which is really on the outskirts of the city, it's literally in this neighborhood that is completely dilapidated and abandoned. Yeah, it's really spooky, a real ghost town of a neighborhood. And there's an individual man who's identified as the blind man in the credits, played by Stephen Lang, the villain from Avatar and a lot of other good movies. He's living by himself in this house. He's blind. He inherited.
But they don't know he's blind.
Not at first, yeah. But they know that he inherited a great deal of money because of this tragedy in his life, and he's just him in this house.
Yeah, so basically they go and stake out the house, and they're like, should we rob a blind? And they don't know. They don't know he's blind, but they know that his daughter was killed.
Yes, his daughter was killed.
Yeah. And he got the money as a settlement from the court case. So they know he has about $300,000, And I don't know why they know it's in the house, but they just are like,
Well, if they didn't go for the house, we wouldn't have a movie. So
That's true.
it's a treasure hunt sort of thing. And because there's three, it's very Treasure Sierra Madre. It's three people obsessing over this money that may or may not be there. So yeah, so the three of them decide they're going to go at 2 a.m. And we should also, I mean, the obvious point that they stake the house out, and they see, and the two things that we know is that he has this ferocious dog,
Rottweiler.
Yeah, this Rottweiler, but he's also blind and seemingly feeble.
Oh yeah,
and very
they
old.
find out he's blind right away when they're staking out.
Yes,
because he comes out to walk the dog and he has a walker, like a stick, a
cane.
Yeah,
and they don't see him.
Yeah, and so they're like, okay, this dude's blind. He has money. This is gonna be easy in and out job.
Yeah.
So
at least that's the scenario, that's the setup. And we should say, as you reminded me beforehand, there will be spoilers. So if this sounds interesting, then by all means go see the film and then come back and listen to the rest.
We are gonna say all the spoilers because this was a wild ride.
It was, yeah, and it was fun watching it with you because I remember the twist pretty well, but it is one of these movies that it does take its time to pull all of its punches. It doesn't unload everything at once. It's constantly kind of unleashing, because it's a very straightforward story, but at the same time, like, there are some like huge twists and that are spaced like 20 minutes apart from each other.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we should start off with the group go to the house at 2 a.m. and they have a really hard time breaking in. I mean, there's locks upon locks. I mean, and bars on all the windows. I mean, this place is like Fort Knox. And so Rocky, the Jane Levy character, we'll just call her Rocky from now on, she sees that there's a window on the second floor and she's like, I'm going to go up there and I'll let you guys in. So she breaks the window, she climbs in, and you see her walking through this dark house, and a piece of glass kind of sticks to her foot, her shoe, and then it ends up, I don't know, the camera like lingered on this glass in the hallway, and I thought, oh, they're gonna, like, that's gonna be something. And she has to get the alarm to go off, like make sure it doesn't go off. So she gets that done and opens the door and lets them in. And then this is the countdown now to Crazy Town.
Yeah, and that's a really good moment to linger on, because Fede Alvarez is a really demonstrative filmmaker. He's not stylish in a way that's obnoxious or pretentious. I mean, he's very confident with his camera movement. I mean, for me, this movie has the precision of a really good David Fincher film. It's visually striking and beautiful. Technically, it's absolutely stunning. It's such a tour de force of camera movements. The actors are wonderful here. It's an exciting film, and even though I think most wouldn't call this film a typical horror film, it is a horror film, and it's very intense. It's more intense than anything else. It's not it's violent and it's shocking, but it's not a movie I think that goes over the line.
Yeah, it's not paranormal. There's no ghosts or spirits or anything like that in the movie. So if anybody's curious about that, it tries to be more grounded in the real world, I think. Yeah,
it tries to. Yeah, and we in discussing it, since we've seen it, we've come up with a few things that could count as a whole or whatever. But no, it does feel pretty, it's very plausible, especially in the opening scenes. And I think more than anything, we care about these characters. And as you pointed out, as the heist is going on, these three young people are going through the house and they're rummaging around, they're trying to figure out what to do, and they're going through they're going through all the procedures of their heist, and they
trying to find the money,
and they knock out the old blind man. You asked the really great questions, like, I'm not really sure who I should be rooting for here.
So here's what happened. They go up to his bedroom and he's sleeping, and there's a TV playing, and it's obviously old home movies of his daughter, who's maybe 7, maybe 6, I don't know. And you're like, oh my gosh, here's this poor old man sleeping in bed, and he falls asleep to videos of his daughter every night. Like, this is heartbreaking. And now these kids are going to steal all of his money from a tragic accident. I mean, I paused the movie and I said, okay, I don't know who to root for now.
Yeah, and it's great because I had a sense of what was coming, but I had the same feeling the first time I saw it too. It really is the sense like, I don't know about this movie because I'm not really liking these young people enough.
Right.
I'm interested in their predicaments, and like I said, like Rocky has this really great reason for doing what she's doing, but at the same time, no, it's a great question. It's like, well, who's the protagonist in this? Because they're all kind of they're taking advantage of this poor blind man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Rocky's boyfriend, I guess, there's two boys and her.
Yeah.
His name's Money, which is, I think, confusing. But anyways, he sets off a gas bomb in the room to put him to sleep. And so then he's like, all right, old man lights out. Like, let's find the money. And they find a door with like major locks on it. And they're like, the money's definitely down here in on the other side of this door. And then that's when the blind man shows up.
Dude is awake, and he is more. I mean, it's established that he is a Gulf War survivor, so he's more than capable in taking care of himself and, upending these kids, as we see very quickly.
Yeah.
He takes swift care of Money, and you know what? Money is obnoxious, so
Yeah.
I can't say I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, but he basically was like, how many are you? And he says, it's just me, let me go. And so Rocky hides in the closet, and the other guy, Alex, he leaves. He basically gets out of the house, but he hears the gunshot and goes back in because he knows Rocky's in there. Because the blind man locks his house up again, after Alex gets back in. So now we're really like, now I'm freaking out.
It was great. Yeah, it was fun watching this with you. And then, of course, the big reveal, the which gets us into the second act. And it's a swift film.
Wait. Are you talking about in the basement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
Well,
we need to set more up?
Yeah. So they go in. Okay. Yes, because they're trying to escape, and they remember this door out in the outside, and they're like, the lock was on the inside. If we can get into the basement, it's for sure we can get out. And I wish it were that simple, but they go into the basement, and then what happens?
You're so freaked out you can't even say what happened. This is
know.
great. So it really is. It's a terrifying moment. And by the way, it's in the trailer.
Don't watch
I
the
didn't,
trailer.
I
Oh
didn't
my
see the
gosh.
trailer prior to seeing this movie. Now that did Julie. I'm really glad we didn't. But yeah, it's a great shock of a moment where Rocky is immersed in darkness. Suddenly the lights go on, and this young woman just out of nowhere just lunges at her, and we realize that the young woman, her face is taped, she is chained, and she is in this like aquarium, like
It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like this part of this room that's padded by like seat covers.
Yeah.
Like seat.
It's patterned the way a music studio would be patterned.
Yeah. Like 3 or 4 deep.
Yeah.
And she's like, she has a mask on. She's gagged, and she shows them that she's the woman who killed his daughter.
Yes, she very, very helpfully has a newspaper clipping about the crime she committed, which I guess is something that all criminals do. They've got their like, look what I did. So she shows it to Rocky, and we establish, oh my God, this is the young woman. And we should talk really quickly. Like, I thought this was helpful because I hadn't thought of it before. You asked like, well, how did she get there?
Yeah, I said, as we were talking, I'm thinking, okay, this dude's blind, and how did he get this woman in his basement? And because there's no way, I was thinking, all right, well, maybe this crime happened.
And to be clear, like, he was blinded during combat.
Yeah.
This isn't a recent thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So he'd been blind for a while, and then his daughter gets killed in a car accident, and I'm sure, there was a trial, and then this woman, it's what, a manslaughter case, I guess, situation.
Yeah.
And so he gets money from it, but this woman does not go to jail. So that's the rub for him. Like, she didn't have to pay for her crime. And so I was like, well, it's not like he could drive to her house and kidnap her. I mean, he's blind.
It's very hard to kidnap people with lacking sight and use of a cane. Yeah.
So you had a good theory, I thought.
Yeah, I think that the young woman who committed the vehicular manslaughter probably and having the newspaper clipping, I think, is also a really good hint to this. I think she was just racked with guilt, and she knocked on the man's door and wanted to apologize, wanted to, like, was there anything I could do to make this right? And he's like, yeah, sure, come in. And, and he probably, whether he had that prepped for her or whether he just had this insidious plan in place. But yeah, I think it was probably something that he could have anticipated was going to happen or just wanted to happen. Or maybe he just had this crazy, scary, hostage dungeon set up.
Well,
anyway.
what I think, I don't think he had the hostage dungeon set up. I think
he created it after he had her.
Yeah, because there's no way he could have known she was going to come to his house, And the way that it looks, it's so weird. It kind of looks like maybe it was like an indoor greenhouse at one time.
Yes. Yeah, it does have that feel.
Yeah, because there were some plants and just like weird lighting and tile and I don't know. And the way that he has it set up with those cushions, you're like, okay, he probably maybe ordered on Amazon like random things. Like, I don't know, but anyways, when she pops out of the darkness and like grabs Rocky, it is seriously a freak out moment. Yeah, and she had and the clipping says that she was basically found innocent of this crime.
To go back to that moment, I mean, it was fun to watch you physically freak out at that moment. You retreated from one side of the couch to the other.
I think I said, "Oh!"
Well, you screamed out an expletive, and it was great. It was a glorious, glorious thing to witness.
So they decide, they're like, well, we have to take her with us. Like, we can't just leave her here. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, is she like his sex slave now? Like, what's going on?
So Rocky and Alex are to see this poor young woman who is clearly the one prisoner. Yeah. Again, she's got chains. She's shackled. She's got a tape over her mouth, and she's in this. It's like a giant fishbowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they figure out, we forgot to mention that while Rocky is in the closet upstairs, she's hiding in the clothes, and the blind man comes in, and there's a safe in there, and he puts the code in. And
she's able to see the code. She
sees the code and knows that the money's in that closet. So when Alex comes back, he's like, we have to get out of here. Forget the money, forget all this stuff. And she just like looks at the safe, punches in the code, and just starts putting the money in her backpack. And you realize it's way more than $300,000. I mean, he said there's probably $1 million.
Yeah, which looks about accurate. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because Alex at this point, I mean, he's just the whole time like, we got to get out of here. Let's go. He's the audience surrogate, because we're going, like, this is stupid.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, get out of there. Yeah.
So she now has the money. And then now they find the girl, and there's another safe with keys. It's the same code. Like, they're able to like use their brains, even though they're totally freaked out, to like basically get her out of these chains and all, everything.
Yeah, and we should say, like, this whole sequence, this whole first act of the movie, it is akin to the John Krasinski film A Quiet Place. The use of silence is masterful. It's very suspenseful because it's established, it's where the title comes from. He can hear you breathing. He can hear your knuckles crack. He can hear every creak in the floor. Yeah. The film is masterful in its use of silence.
And you had a good question, because you said, is that just a movie trope, or can blind people actually hear better?
I'm so used to that in movies, and it goes back to, I've told you, like, one of my favorite Japanese films is a series of movies called Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman. He's blind. He very conveniently has a samurai sword hidden in his cane. And if he hears someone coming towards you, he just pulls the sword out of his cane, and suddenly whoever is standing in front of him is in pieces. So that's an old movie, but I've seen that done so many times where, you lose your sight. You have like this supernatural extrasensory, bat-like homing hearing. And I was curious. Yeah. Because
we did Google it. And it is true. They said blind people don't have better hearing. It's just that they've figured out where sounds come from, because that's like their next strongest sense. You know what I mean? So we use our sight the most and then our hearing, but he's obviously only using his hearing.
It's a peculiar thing because, you know, initially, I mean, this movie is really having its way with us because initially it's like, oh, he has a handicap, he's unable to see, you know, oh, he's a blind man living alone.
He's a veteran.
He's a war veteran.
He's lost his daughter, this horrible accident. Yeah.
And I could, you know, without jumping in too far ahead, I mean, I think on the one hand, you know, I don't feel like this is exploiting or misusing, you know, a character who has a disability. On the other hand, I think because of what we learn about this character and certainly the way Stephen Lang plays it, I mean, there is pathos. It is a tragic character.
Yeah.
There is a sadness to his journey in his life. I did root for the character, even as I find the character awful. But yeah, I admire the film for that because it does take that leap. It's not one of these twist endings where it turns out he's not blind. No, he's blind.
You rooted for him?
I care about him.
No.
I did. Yeah, I did. He's tragic. He's messed up. As you probably indicate, he's probably still going through PTSD, not to mention the death of his daughter.
Well, yeah, he's tragic.
Like, that's the death of his humanity.
Yeah, but what you find out later is even
it's awful,
more horrifying.
But he's not Jeffrey Dahmer, for Pete's sake. I mean, like, you know, that happened when I was in middle school, and that really was one of those things like oh man, like this was the neighborhood kid who everyone was saying like he was so nice, little Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, this is a guy who lived a very long life. He served his country. He was a father. He lives alone. Who's to say like if he was if his wife left him or if he was widowed? There's so much tragedy in this guy's life. Yeah. And when, you know, not to get into, I don't want to step on your feet and talking about getting to that twist, but when it's established exactly what he's doing and why he has a hostage in the basement, there is a practicality to it. And the way he, you know, explains it, it's not, I'm not saying it's justified. I'm saying like this guy, it's
You're
tragic.
saying it just like makes sense in his worldview.
It makes sense as someone, you know, like this sounds like this is a guy who's not so far removed that he doesn't understand. He's not like Buffalo Bill. He understands why. No, he's not dancing around in human flesh. He understands this is screwed up and that it's wrong. He gets that. Yeah. And he gives a timetable, which we'll get to. He gives a timetable to his crime, but at the same time, it's like this guy. Like I don't know. I don't find him. He's monstrous, but I don't know. I can't help but feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I know. I think that was something that the director, I just was reading a little bit about it, that he wasn't trying to make any of the characters likable or dislikable. Sure. I think he was just trying to make them real.
Which is smart, because I think we have just enough characterization in this movie.
Which I think that's pretty normal, you know, like, I think Rocky and her choice to still take the money even after all of this, I mean, I was like, what are you doing? You know,
well, we understand what's at stake because it is about escaping. It's about a better life. Yeah. And, you know, Rocky sees herself as a surrogate mother for her sister. So it's like, let's get out of here. Let's start a real life. Let's escape this nightmare. So, I mean, like you get, you know, the idea is you get this money. This is a ticket to a new existence, a total new start.
Yeah. And I think, you know, she obviously thought it would be easier. But okay, so
go ahead. So give us the second act twist that really turns this, and this is where the movie really shows its hand as to what it is exactly that's going on.
Yeah. So they go to open up the door that would get them,
the basement
door. And there's the blind man waiting for them. I mean, he knows this house like the back of his hand. I mean, he knows.
Well, you can hear them. So we're to the basement. By the way, that is his voice. I really quickly, not to interrupt you, sorry, but like Stephen Lang, this is a brilliant character actor. My father saw him on Broadway. He played Dustin Hoffman's son in Death of a Salesman. He's played a lot of villains because, you know, he has the look, which is fine. He's a brilliant actor. He played the bad guy in my favorite Michael J. Fox movie, The Hard Way, and he's also the bad guy in Avatar. That's what he's best known for. I love his voice in this movie because it is this voice of a man who doesn't use his voice often, and it sounds like he's probably been crying most of his days. It's a really choked up. It's a choked up hoarse voice. Like I mean, I think this is a guy who's just living in constant agony. I do, and you hear it in his vocal choice. But anyway, I'm sorry. Please continue.
But yeah, I mean, he's still like a monster who's ripped and like a killing machine. Okay, so he opens up the door and just starts shooting and kills his hostage.
Yeah.
And the other two, Rocky and Alex, are like, what? You know, so they start running back towards the basement. And this is the scene where he basically turns out all the lights and you're basically watching them in pitch black. And it's so scary because they don't know where they're going. And at one point she's walking towards him.
And she doesn't realize she's walking towards him. It's very similar, obviously, to the basement scene at the end of The Silence of the Lambs. But it's interesting because no one has the upper hand here. Yeah. It really is. Again, it's just a matter of what everyone can hear. They're going. Yeah. They're using that sense to
feeling.
And feeling around and
and you can see how the blind man, has all these little tricks that things he touches so he knows where he is.
And by the way, again, he is identified in the end credits as the blind man. We're not being insensitive, like, I don't know what he's called. He's the blind man. No, like, that's the name of the character, folks. So just so you know.
So then basically the rest of it is them trying to escape, and they're going, they're finding their way on all the different floors, and they can't get out. There's bars on the windows, there's locks.
Okay, but tell our listeners the horrifying reason why he has a hostage.
We don't know yet. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, because he shoots the hostage and then he lets it spill.
Well, he
so to speak.
He finds her and he just starts crying and he says, "My baby." And you don't know. I was like, is he talking about her? Like, what's going on? No, he basically kidnaps her and impregnates her, and so that she'll have another child for him, and told her she could leave in 9 months after the baby's born. And it's just beyond so horrible. So okay, well, we can fast forward because Alex...
Yeah, because Alex is out of the picture.
Alex gets out of the picture.
Temporarily. And Rocky has been rendered unconscious, and she finds herself in the exact same situation that the hostage was in.
Yeah, so now... Well, it's crazy because she gets out of the house. He finds her, drags her back in, and then she's tied up. And I'm just like, what? She actually got out, and then
and that's one of the things.
There's so many near-death scenes.
That's one of the reasons this movie really scared me the first time I saw it. Really, really quickly, I'll say you and I have taken road trips where we've driven through ghost towns that are isolated between Colorado and Texas, and that just frightened me to think it's blocks and blocks of houses. Where is there anybody here? Where are the people? If it's nighttime, are we going to see one light on? Really freaked me out. And this movie creates that.
They established that this is an abandoned neighborhood.
It's an abandoned neighborhood.
Everyone's houses have been foreclosed on. Everyone's moved away, but this guy.
So when Rocky is free momentarily and running around, running around, there is nobody. Yeah. I mean, they might as well be in a desert. It is so upsetting to see this suburb with all these houses, but they're completely empty. And he can hear the stomping of her feet, so she's really easy to catch. So anyway, I found that to be very effective.
He sicks their dog on them, so the Rottweiler has
he's a pretty big character.
Yeah, he really is. He's terrifying. But she wakes up and she's tied up, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, now he's gonna have his way with her and all this stuff. And that's when he tells her, "You're strong. You'll survive. Once you have a baby for me, I'll let you go. It's only 9 months."
I'm not a rapist. I never forced myself on her.
Stop.
I promised I would set her free just as soon as she gave me a child. Now she's gone, but I'm done waiting.
The line that we talked about today, because it was really bothering me. He's like, I'm not a rapist.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a rapist.
Don't worry, no big deal. 9 months, then I'll let you go.
And I'm like, how is he not a rapist? Oh no, he's going to artificially inseminate her with a turkey baster.
This turkey baster is a key prop in this film. I gotta say, in all honesty, like I had not, again, like I went into this movie sorry. I went into this movie unfamiliar with what it was the first time I saw it, but I did hear that a turkey baster was prominently featured in it, and the movie does not disappoint.
Oh my gosh. And
Oh my God.
so I just want to be clear. It doesn't matter that he said he's not a rapist. He was going to rape her with
the turkey baster, for God's sake.
So he still is.
It's graphically shown in the sense that you see like he's got vats of his DNA.
Ugh.
And there's loving closeness of it being boiled and prepared.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
For a movie that doesn't have any gore, that's the gross part of this movie. It's like, oh my gosh, he's got like
this is just like a science
experiment. It's
experiment.
like a gigantic mayonnaise jar that he's got. Oh, the day's gonna come. So
disgusting.
So gross.
Yeah, and then just as he's about to, whatever, Alex saves her.
Yeah, it's a very, very opportune moment for Alex to show up at that moment. Because,
Because you're thinking, I don't want to see this.
But what's even better, so Alex turns the tables. He whacks the dude in the head with the shovel and rescues Rocky.
And then Rocky takes the turkey baster and shoves it in his mouth.
and lets it rip. And he's like, yeah. It's like, how does it taste? Like, wow, man.
Yeah.
This movie knows its audience.
She gave it to him. And
it's great.
It was awesome.
Glorious.
Yeah, it was like good. He totally deserved that and more. But we were happy to see that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to root for, but it's that kind of a movie.
Yeah.
So they handcuff him, and they basically it's constant. This movie's constantly a series of reversals. So now the old blind man is
handcuffed in his own prison.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more to it because I think Alex eats it, right?
At some point, Alex does eat it. Yeah,
does,
there's a few close calls. I mean, he falls through a window. He's shot. He's impaled. I mean, Alex is like Jason. Like he cannot be killed.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It makes sense. Like Hitchcock used to say, like one of the hardest things to do is to kill someone. And this movie makes the point. Like, I mean, if you're young, you're resilient. Even if you have a broken leg, I mean, you'll still fight to live. And this guy, he has that. So I never thought it was. It was never a plot twist that I didn't find probable.
Yeah. But, eventually Rocky makes it out and she has to run for her life away from the Rottweiler. And there's an awesome ending with the dog.
Yeah, she does take it. Though I want to say, like, there is one of my favorite moments in the movie is Rocky runs from the house. I mean, she's a good distance from the house. The old man steps on the front porch.
And you're like, how did he get out of, like...
In any case, I mean, he's standing there and, obviously he's just standing there. And she's like, you can't do anything. You're useless out here. And then he's like...
And then the dog...
Fluffy. And then the dog, like, runs after her.
And she's like, oh,
Yeah, so it's great. Yeah, so it does become about the dog and Rocky for quite some time. Where it's very Cujo, where the dog is she's stuck in a car and she has to outthink the dog, and she does, and it's great.
Yeah, she does, and that's awesome. And so at the very end
of that scene, or
no, of the movie.
Oh, jump into that. Okay.
Well, is there more? Oh, well,
he brings her back to the house.
No, that was
the old man.
No. He already did that.
No. So the dog, she gets the dog in the car. She gets out of the car. He gets her. And then he brings her back to the house. Remember? And then they're in the front of the house. She sees that Alex is dead. Alex left the remote. Remember?
Yeah, you're right.
So there's two escapes.
Oh, so she gets dragged back twice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're right. This is why the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, no, it's horrifying. 'Cause it's like, man, she got so far, did so much, but yeah, I mean, she's a very loud person, and he's like, oh, there she is, and he finds her very easily. So he brings her back to the house, and it's this really great reveal to just talk about the whole film, scene for scene, where she finds Alex's remote. Alex had the remote that basically could set off the alarm.
Yeah, to the security system,
and she uses that to her advantage because in addition to having super hearing, it's also very sensitive.
Oh, yeah, and then the alarm goes off, and it drives him bonkers.
Insane, and she uses that moment to beat the living hell out of him, which is also a lot of fun to watch. And and then that's where the film wraps up. This is the climax of the film where she manages to overcome him. In a way, it looks like she kills him, but really she just kicks his butt down to the basement, which is perfect poetic justice. Yeah. She gets out of the house. She's got the sack of $1 million, and she manages to turn a corner just as a fleet of cop cars show up. We think the film is over, and then...
Yeah, she's in an airport with her little sister, and they're talking about going to California and going to the beach, and it's going to be so great. And then she sees on a TV, there's a news report that he's alive, and they're like, his house was broken into and he was beat up pretty bad, but nothing was stolen, and he's gonna be fine. And the look on her face is just...
The look on his face is fantastic because he's being wheeled out in a gurney. He has like a oxygen mask on. He's looking straight at the news camera and smiling. It's great. It's great. And it's awesome because, so the camera is on Jane Levy's character, Jane Levy playing Rocky. She's horrified. And so she takes her sister and they run off towards the gate. And the way it's shot and the way it feels, it doesn't feel like a happy ending. It feels like this character is going to be escaping for the rest of her life. It does not feel, it is not the happy catharsis you want. The movie doesn't give it to you.
Yeah. And aren't they shooting a sequel?
They've shot it. That's the amazing thing. They shot it completely in secret. Stephen Lang is back as the blind old man, which I love. It's apparently Jane Levy is not in it, or if she is, it's a cameo. I don't know. But in any case, it's the director and Sam Raimi said that they found a concept for a sequel that they loved so much. They're like, we have to shoot this thing quickly. So apparently they were able to finish it. It was in the midst of the COVID outbreak. So they shot it in, where was it? I can't remember where it was, Belize or something. They shot it overseas and in secret and in a hermetically sealed bubble. And apparently it's done. It's scheduled to open next year. Yeah. Don't Breathe 2.
Yeah, I would be curious to see that.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, because this one really had me,
it's a terrific exercise in this kind of suspense.
Freaking out.
People have compared it to Panic Room. First of all, let me say Panic Room is so much better than anyone remembers. That's a 4-star masterpiece. David Fincher made that film into a total tour de force. And I'd say this movie, to its credit, is up there. It'd be a masochistic but perfect double feature to watch those two back to back. Because it is that kind of a film. The camera moves are acrobatic. It's all over this house. The filmmaking is as much responsible for how exciting and suspenseful this film is. It's great. For me, I would say it's a cross between Wait Until Dark and The People Under the Stairs, two movies I love.
Yeah. I really do like People Under the Stairs too.
And I got to say, this is only the second film of this filmmaker. He did The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, which was, kind of a quasi sequel to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It came out a couple years ago. Claire Foy took over the role of Lisbeth Salander. It bombed really, really hard. I liked it. It's good. It was an original story, which I think people didn't like. They wanted it to follow the books, and it wasn't that at all. Claire Foy was amazing as the girl with the dragon tattoo, and Fede Alvarez made it as visually rich as you'd expect from him. But nobody went to see that film. So he co-wrote and co-produced Don't Breathe 2, but he's not the director on it this time, unfortunately.
Oh, dang.
But he's a busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. But hopefully that movie hasn't set him back too much. The girl kicked the hornet's nest.
He'll be fine.
I hope so, because he's between Evil Dead and this movie, he's a force to be reckoned with. I love these young horror filmmakers who are just they got the stuff. This is another guy like Mike Flanagan. It's at the rate they're going, this is going to be like another Wes Craven, another John Carpenter, just a really inventive guy who's really got the chops. He's great.
So if you could have an alternative ending to Don't Breathe, what would it be?
Not an alternative ending, because I think the ending is perfect, but I think after we see Rocky and her sister run away, the camera would go, the screen would go black, and then it would say 1 year later, and the camera would pull up, and we'd see like this big Thanksgiving Day table. It's like in this dining room, there's all this whole family there, and the father of the table stands up and he clinks against the glass and he goes, "Hey, I want to thank you all for coming today for the Wilson Thanksgiving. I want to thank you all especially for joining us, because I have my war buddy here, the guy who I served with me, the guy who saved my life. A big explosion, it took his sight, but it saved my life. I want to thank you all. And we're just going to call him what I used to call him on the field, the good old blind man. Good old blind man, it's so nice to have you here." And Stephen Lang stands up and he holds up the turkey baster. He's like, "Who wants some turkey?" And end credits.
Ew.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing that no one has called you to write this next script.
By the way, I love that, like, because Stephen Lang's character in this is kind of iconic, all I got to do for a Halloween costume is just have white hair, a white beard, and a turkey baster.
No, you're not doing that.
Can I please do
No.
that? See if anybody would be like, you get it? You get it? Don't breathe? I got the baster.
That's gross.
Trick or treat.
Ew, no. It's disgusting.
Gobble, gobble.
Okay. All right, well, how many stars did you give this movie?
I guess 3.5. I mean, it's unpleasant at times, which is something that kind of comes with the territory of being a thriller / horror film. It's a very dark film.
Yeah.
And it does not have a sense of humor. And that's a hard thing for me, because I think some of the best horror films, they have a sense of humor, or they give you those moments of light or dark humor.
Where you can just like have a laughing
Yes.
release.
And this movie doesn't have that at all. It's really, really dark, and at times it's unpleasant. Even watching it with you the other night, I'm just like, this is a near perfect film, but man, like, it could have used just a little bit of humor to make it a little more. I mean, I wouldn't use the word punishing. I think it's a pretty exhilarating movie, but I mean, it's merciless. You do kind of walk out feeling like I got to watch some Disney Plus right now, because this is a tough one to go to sleep with.
Yeah. It was tough to watch at times because it is so intense, but at the same time, I mean, I didn't have any nightmares or anything like that. So that to me is definitely tells me that it didn't go too far with the visuals. Like, obviously it's about unpleasant things and this character is a monster, but it doesn't show you, like, it's not showing like sexual assault or,
And you're absolutely right. It could have gone that far.
Yeah.
But that's also, I think, a sign of a great horror film, because a great horror film doesn't need to go that far. And sometimes insinuating that stuff, suggesting it, is so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So
how many stars would you give it?
I think I would give it 3. Yeah. Because I enjoyed, I guess, the experience of watching it, because there were so many twists and turns, and I just was not prepared in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it when you show me a movie that I have no background of. I've never seen a trailer. I don't know what's going to happen. You kind of give me like, hey, it's like this or like that movie, and you'll like it, or well, let's just see.
I really appreciate that, sweetie, because I love showing you movies. No, I do. I love showing you movies that I love and I really dig. I dug this movie the first time I saw it. I walked out of the theater thinking, I'm never going to watch this with you.
Well, you know what?
But it's October, so I thought, like, I want to see it again. It's Halloween time, and I wanted to watch a quality horror film.
Okay, well, you hand me the movie, and then you go put our daughter to bed.
Yes.
And you come
Make
back.
sure Beatrice is unconscious,
Yeah.
folks, because she is not walking out like, what's that?
Yeah.
There's a turkey baster.
Oh my, stop. Okay, so then I have it all set to go, and you're like, we don't have to watch it. I mean, we could watch something else. And I'm like, it's ready to go. Like, let's just do this. So you waffled.
Yeah, I wanted to give you an out. I mean, because I got a stack of horror movies over there. That, I borrow stuff from my local library all the time, and they know me. It's like, oh, Barry's here, so it's like there's all the horror movies leaving the shelf. But yeah, I was looking forward to seeing it again, because it has been, I haven't seen it since it was new.
Yeah.
And I remember really digging it, but at the same time, I wasn't planning on watching it with you, but I thought this is really good. I'd maybe, it's one of those calculated risks. Sometimes though those don't work out, and sometimes they do.
Yeah, it totally worked out. I liked it. So.
Well, good, excellent. So do you get to pick the next one?
I do.
Sweet. Do you know what you're gonna subject me to?
I don't.
Okay, cool.
It won't be a horror movie.
I know it won't. I'm not that lucky. So next week, Must Love Dogs, John Cusack, Diane Lane.
No, we're not doing that.
Thank God. Can't stand that movie.
Oh. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us and listening to So I Married a Film Critic.
That's right. Remember, everyone, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, stop.